Good morning and welcome to another episode of Crede Play Offense. Today I am joined by Casey Berman from Camber Creek. He's a founding partner and managing member of their fund and a dear friend and one of the guys I go to when it comes to fintech and trying to stay ahead. We're normally using hammers and drills. Casey and his team are typically looking ahead to see what AI and different things could do. So it always helps me take an antiquated industry and look forward with it. So Casey, welcome.
Colby, thanks for having me. It's awesome to be here. I love all the work that you do and building all over the country, all over the world, and we're happy to help anyone out there with technology, how to make their business more efficient.
Maybe we start off a little bit about, just the kind of what's the elevator pitch for Camber Creek so people know what you guys do and versus me stumbling through it. I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, all right, let's dive right in. So, we are a financial platform set up to drive innovation in the real estate world. And the way we do that is we work with the industry. We have over 300 strategic investors, everything from the large service providers to the owners to the property managers across every asset class that have invested with us. And we work with that ecosystem of investor to first identify technology companies that are changing the landscape, making all of our lives easier. And then the second step, we invest in those companies through our funds. And then the third step, as we all know in real estate, everyone wants to know who else is using it. Where can I go see it, touch it, kick the tires? Where can I go check out the bricks and the sticks? We can share what our early adopters have shared with us, the information about the best practices, and can help small startups grow into very large companies through our network.
And how long have you been doing that?
That's a great question. So we started Camber Creek in 2011. I started prior to Camber Creek in the real estate space. So my role was running a property management company, doing the leasing, project management, and property management for about 2 million square feet of office and retail, 1,500 apartments. And our whole business was run on a spreadsheet. So in trying to make my life easier, we identified technology companies to implement. And back in 2008, 9, 10, and 11, there wasn't much out there. The word prop tech did not exist yet. In 2011, $62 million was invested in real estate technology companies. That was about the size of the last deal in our industry. The one deal was bigger than the whole industry 13 years ago. So in 2011, we launched Camber Creek to change the industry.
And when you are looking at not companies yet, but let's talk about your people because it's intriguing to me. Like for what I look for in a project manager or a development manager is different than some of our competitors because for us, our mantra is our team acts like owners because we develop our own stuff as well as work for third parties, and it's a different mindset. It's kind of staying outside the box, and so it's intriguing for me when you look at an acquisitions person or an analyst. It's not your typical just straight private equity or a real estate person that wants to go work at a closed-end opportunity fund or value add fund because you're looking at real estate in a different way. Is there what are the traits of people you're looking for to hire?
Yeah, that's great. So I mean, with any hire, one of the most important things for us is character. We look for people who want to make change happen as opposed to letting change happen to them. And that's a type of person. Once we've identified the type of person that could be a fit to our culture on our team, it is critical that all of our team members have real estate experience. I love how you guys are the owner. So in advising an owner, you get it. You've sat literally in the same seat. We take that same approach where when one of our team members is making a suggestion to an apartment marketing person, it is very hard to make a suggestion to an apartment marketing person if you've never been or worked directly with the head of marketing for an apartment complex. So we look for real estate experience as part of the background, a piece of it. And then another major piece is we look for people who are innovative, who are creative. It can show through as creativity. It could show through as we call like special projects. So they might have real estate experience, but what else? Like, what are the special projects have they accomplished that shows that innovative drive? In some cases, it is traditional venture capital experience. So we've hired real prior venture capitalists who somehow have a real estate project. So for us, we think about it as two elements. They need to have real estate experience and knowledge, and then they need to absolutely have some type of innovative or special project experience. And what we find is the combination of those two differentiates us by the way we describe speaking the language of the actual industry. We can bridge the gap. There's the technology company here, there's the real estate firm here. They speak different languages. One's a software, one is hammering nails in the case of construction. Those are about as different as it gets. How do we translate so that there can be a project that they work on together? There can be efficiency gained between the two. So that blend of experience is critical.
Yeah, probably a naive question. I'm just thinking about my kids. My daughter's just starting undergrad. Starting to wonder, like, all right, will there be a real estate fintech master's, or a degree that kind of bridges it? Because to me, this is truly the next horizon of real estate. Not even crazy like meta and virtual real estate, but forgetting automation and stuff like that, of like taking total of people out of it. It's amazing to me kind of what's coming, and how do we train the next generation to learn about this? Because it's like there's no textbooks for this yet.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up. I recently joined my alma mater's real estate board, University of Michigan. So for all the Michigan people, go blue. They asked that exact question.
Except for football season, so we can talk about that later.
We can talk about it. Well, I don't want to talk about it this week. Next week we can talk about it.
Yeah, all
right. Rough weekend. The board was posed that exact question. What classes need to be offered to prepare the next generation for the real estate environment? I think it's the exact right question. And the way we think about it is the blend. Like, you need to know finance. You need to have practical experience with project management. You need there's a baseline of real estate classes you should have. But the ones that we felt are most impactful are kind of in a different vein. So one of the ones that we like is data science. We feel like every person in real estate should at least have an introductory approach to data science. How are they using data or leveraging data to do all the traditional real estate stuff? Data science goes in a bunch of different directions. We like statistics. We feel like in real estate, a lot of the data science and statistics really overlap hand in hand. And that's something that's really interesting. And then the other piece is just anything in engineering that gives a candidate the ability to think analytically we've seen been massively valuable. It doesn't have to be directly applicable, but that way of thinking is really valuable to pile into the real estate background.
It's interesting to me that you haven't really touched on computer science or AI as part of that real estate training yet. Is that just because it's too new, or just not on your focus?
We are absolutely focused on AI. In terms of how we are approaching it, the way we think about it is similar to 2008 to 2015. Actually, we had a conversation with 3 of our real estate investors recently. Similar conversations. They're like, everyone's talking about AI. What should we be doing? How do we manage this? We don't want to be behind. We want to stay right on top of this. And the feedback is we're being pitched, the media, the world is saying AI is the silver bullet. it is going to change everything. And people aren't feeling that yet, and it makes them fearful. And if you look back to 2008 to 2015, and the world shifted from in-office and mobile workforce to blended. And like, how did that happen? If you like really dig in, how did that happen? In 2008, the iPhone was 1 year old. Everyone had a BlackBerry. Would scroll through on the little pearl thing.
Yeah.
And you could do your email efficiently in the field, but that was about it. If you wanted to have any mobile workforce type thing, you had to use the Panasonic Toughbook or one of these purpose-built field digital devices that were very expensive. Over 7 or so years, apps, today we take it totally for granted, apps changed our ability to work completely mobile wherever we are, whenever we want, to do whatever we want. That changed everything. The efficiency gains were massive. That same shift is happening with AI. And the way we're seeing it is, first, specific teams will be made more efficient. It's not like people are like, oh, do I need an acquisition team anymore? I'm just going to use AI. No, that's not how it works. Instead of your 10-person acquisitions team underwriting 50 deals per year, you might be able to underwrite 100 to 200 deals per year with 8 people. And why? Well, all of the OMs are ingested automatically into the spreadsheet or into your proprietary underwriting software. And that saves you a bunch of time. Once it's in the automated underwriting software, you can help prioritize and abstract the leases more efficiently. You can abstract the other contracts more efficiently. All these little pieces of efficiency add up across the departments. You look at marketing. All right, well, your marketing team doesn't have to draft the press release. ChatGPT can draft it, and you can just edit and modify it. You add up all these little pieces across the company, and then look back 5 years from now, it will look like a silver bullet, where you might be 10, 20% more efficient across your company through all of these little efficiency gains. It's hard to feel today because it happens slowly and in each of these silos, but that's the scale of this potential. So we're very interested in AI, going back to your question.
And I agree with you. It's funny. I'm a big believer in Moore's law. Always have been. And it's, and just for everybody out there, it's basically whatever you do, you can do the second time twice as fast and effectively for half the money. And that to me applies almost, generically across the world, but it has never applied to construction or real estate. I mean, we've been building things the same way for years and years. Our underwriting, it's like, I hate to say it, but the same way I learned how to model when I started in this business, the same way I build a model today for financial building and underwriting. And
Colby, that's a you problem. I don't know why you're sharing that with the whole world.
Yeah, we all know that I have a lot of weak points. It was it was interesting chatting with one of the board members of Blizzard Gaming, and they were talking about how AI is going to affect their business. And the question was poised, "Oh, are you going to lay off workforce?" And they said, "No, we're just going to increase throughput. We're going to come up with more games, and we'll come up with more releases faster." So to me, like that's going to be the fun part of real estate is you potentially can now, your throughput can be faster. You can execute better on leases. You can, it's just the whole work cycle can potentially become more efficient, which we've never been able to achieve in our business.
Yeah, that's the part that's really exciting for us is we describe it as you can focus on the business intelligence. You can focus on the business decisions instead of, all right, we're looking at this acquisition. It's moved to our second phase. We have 37 leases. We got to read through them all. We got to abstract them all. Like the annoying stuff. Well, great. More and more of the annoying stuff is being automated.
Yeah. Or being made more accurate because you're taking some of the human error out of it.
That's exactly right. And that'll make us all more efficient, which is exciting.
Yeah. I had when I went to go for my MBA, I'll never forget. My boss at the time said he left me a present on my desk, and I thought, oh, it came back, and I thought it was going to be this great present. And it turned out to be 3 contracts with a note that said, I need these by 6 a.m. And it was 1 o'clock in the morning after going out to the bars with my new classmates. So I can guarantee that the human accuracy is dependent upon sleep.
Yeah, but look where you are. Look where you are today. You must have been accurate enough.
Yeah, I was accurate enough. Well, what type of companies are you looking at then that, either have AI or, I mean, you talk a lot about different things across there. Is it more sector specific or founder specific, or what helps with your different theses that you're taking?
Yeah. So we think about it in two ways. The first way is we listen to our investors. We listen to the real estate ecosystem to hear about the challenges they're having. And then in hearing those challenges, we can prioritize companies trying to help those solve those specific problems. And then the second way we think about trying to find companies, we have specific themes we're targeting. So an example, right now, a lot of people are talking about fraud across a lot of different industries. We've been an investor for some time now in a company called Proof. It was originally called Notarize. And the idea behind that was digital signatures became the norm, but why could we not do a digital notarization? Everyone has had the experience where they're scrambling, like, we need a notary. Like, oh, we can't get this done without a notary. And you're like driving to the FedEx Kinko store or scrambling to find a notary. Notarize solved that problem. Taking that to the next level, if you actually can identify both digitally and in person someone's identity, why not use that for other workflows? So Notarized has since rebranded as Proof to do just that. Beyond just a digital notarization, they can prove people's identities for various workflows. What we're seeing is things like that across real estate are critical. The loudest one right now is multifamily applications.
Yeah, I was going to say, does that help with like credit checks or rental applications and stuff like that as well?
Yeah, so we're tracking about 8 companies right now in the multifamily credit, salary or income, and or asset verification process. And we view over the next 6 to 12 months there to be a massive bump in both efficiency and efficacy of those checks. To be clear, all of the existing solutions have an option. So like MRI, Entrata, Yardi, RealPage, they all offer an option. But what we're hearing from the industry is they're not sufficient. The amount of fraud, the amount of manipulation is a safe way of describing it, that it is occurring in that space is untenable by the owners, and we need a better solution. So there's that it is happening in real time. We're seeing that the efficiency of companies get better, and this is a perfect challenge for technology to solve. So that's an example of how we've kind of expanded that search and looking for other companies to help solve a very specific real-time problem. One of the ones I think that's really interesting in your sector is just location data. Around for a while, cell phone data was everywhere. Everyone was buying cell phone data. That has gotten more complicated and more privacy constrained. But now there's other sources of data. U-Haul has historically had like fantastic movement and migration data information. But now with a combination of both credit cards and cell phones, there's great, incredibly granular data around both population trends and the way we think about it is like spending trends. Where and how are people spending their money? And the one I love best is, okay, if you have a specific location, where are people coming from? And how does that, where it comes, that is valuable to go all the way back to marketing. Okay, I'm going to market in this location because I know all the people at my store or at my hotel are coming from this area to my hotel. It really opens up a whole new way to focus your efforts.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That's been really interesting.
Our friend Sandy, it's like, Pacer AI was so advanced for so many years, and now it's kind of table stakes. And it's like, what's going to be the next thing that truly
Yeah,
helps or direct markets to folks coming out of the mall or coming out of retail, so you can really understand the trends, not just
yeah.
what people are selling.
And we see companies like Placer being incredibly valuable to the brokerage community, to retail. Like, how do we stack up relative to the other retail locations? There's companies like Unicast that do both for government work and for various parts of real estate beyond just retail, providing the actual data, going to my comment earlier about like data science, providing the actual data for your teams to manipulate it in a way that's productive. You're going to buy that multifamily apartment. Well, what's the migration into that submarket? Really breaking it down to that granularity. So there's a lot of cool approaches we're starting to see real estate groups go down. And to that end, people are no longer afraid. When we started, there was this fear like, I've been doing it this way for 20 years. We heard this all the time. It's working. I don't want to start messing around with tech and mess it up. That was the original sentiment. Today, the sentiment is, I appreciate the value that tech can drive to my business and make it more efficient. Help us implement. We want to do this. We're not exactly sure how. We have a couple initiatives right now. Help us implement. And that's really exciting.
Well, and it's a little bit of a softball for me because I know some of your history and a few of your investments, but maybe talk a little bit. I've known you to not just invest in pure tech platforms. So like we talk about, notary or different things, but I've also seen you invest in ways
Yeah.
that you can take a physical piece or a component of a building and apply tech, or look for companies that do things like that that revolutionize something as simple as a door lock, as an example, or
Yeah.
something at the window. I mean, that's the fun part for me to having seen your investments over the years, because it gives me a different view of like, hey, this could actually work.
Yeah. I mean, I'll pick one that's relevant to where you started the conversation. You said, the real estate construction space needs to get more repeatable, and repeatability drives efficiency. We invested in a company called Curbio. They do construction. They are a construction company. But what they've done is they've implemented tech into all the little pieces to massively drive margin. So what they do is, if you want to sell your home, Curbio will come in, provide you with an estimate to update your home to be like new, or to update it to be as good as it needs to be to sell at the top of the market for that type of home. And they will do the work. They come in, they do a 3D scan of the space, they propose, this is what the new kitchen should look like, this is what your 3 bathrooms should look like, and we're going to paint and recarpet the whole house. This is the cost. You were going to sell your home for $500,000. We'll come in, we'll spend $45,000 to update it, and you'll sell it somewhere between $6 and $650. You'll make $50 to $100,000 more dollars. We'll make money on the construction. And what's really interesting about that, because they've made it so formulaic, they know what the buyers want to buy in each of the markets. They know what the home buyer wants to buy. They can buy the finishing materials all at the corporate level. They can do the renderings and the takeoffs all at the corporate level. They can do all of the sub-bidding through their sub-bidding platform, therefore enabling the project managers almost to be like a customer success manager. And what that does is massively drives up margin. So their biggest competitor is the individual with a pickup truck and a clipboard driving
Right.
around quoting, kitchen and bath remodels. And when they come in with that level of efficiency, they can drive the margin for the traditional pickup truck and clipboard person from a 10 to 15 north of a 40% margin. That's really compelling to us. The scalability of that type of work we see in companies like Curbio, and we feel like there's a massive opportunity in commercial as well. So like Colby, right in your sweet spot, the more, and where you started, the more people are adding automation and repeatability, it's all margin. Saves time, saves headache in our industry, and makes more money.
Well, and it's interesting too because it's also transparency. I mean, people are generally afraid of construction. I don't care if you're a homeowner or a big family office or a private equity fund. It's a scary process. It's why I have a job. But you think about the homeowner that they get one design from interior designer or one design from an architect. Something like that you can quite literally give, click here's three different styles of cabinets and why it makes sense to go this direction, but you can still personalize it. And you're putting the transparency and the power in the customer's hand that they've never had before either.
And throughout the whole project, they can
Yeah.
actually see in real time the project progressing. I mean, I'd love to hear in your experiences, how are you guys driving that efficiency, that repeatability? The complexity of commercial is huge. Like in residential, most kitchens have the same things. They've got their oven, they've got their refrigerator, they got their microwave, dishwasher, cabinets, rock and roll.
Right.
Just knock it out. How are you guys taking that complexity that comes with a commercial project and trying to drive that automation?
A couple of different ways. So we started, upfront, one just on the sales and marketing side. So we have a very, automated system for our internal teams that make sure they're tracking, and not just a CRM system, but actually AI based with it that helps us on all of our proposal writing, all of our contract writing, and our contract administration as we start to get out the door. And then similarly, we utilize an open source database called QuickBase. Over the years, I wish I could say we've found a great project management software program, but a lot of them are broken for our business. Procore is designed for contractors. Bluebeam is as much for contractors, architects. Northspire is great, but you can't do small projects on it. So we actually spent the time and money to build our own system utilizing an open source database and build a Crede university. So quite literally every single step along the way, and took it down to checklists for all of our team so that there's, our project executives can manage by void analysis, meaning that was this done or not done? If it wasn't done, it automatically flags the next person up the rung. And then we send those out on weekly reports to our clients on a pure transparent KPI to say to the client, this is what our teams are telling us. Do you agree? And, and our teams are actually judged on a quarterly basis by reviews of our clients for not just did they get the right OAC minutes out, but are they exceeding expectation? Are they proactive or not? And then, as funny as it sounds, 10% of our bonuses are tied to whether or not our teams are invited to our clients' holiday parties, because that's not an AI thing. It's not, I'm not necessarily answering your question, and I'll get back to that in a second, but are they directly tied to the culture of our client? And what we find on the automation and that repetitive basis is it's very much the same process to build. It's kind of like manufacturing a car, even if the colors are different, even if the parts that go into it are very, very similar. So if you define that for every single asset class, which we've done, then you're able to take the book off the shelf and use a PX that has done it 6 or 7 times, but then utilize a local project manager that knows all the contractors and the city officials, but they're being guided by someone who's already done it 30 times. And so that's for us. We always say we're in the people business, but we augment it by automation with having a global team. By having a lot of our RFIs, a lot of our work done on a 24-hour basis, and then supplemented at this point with AI. We haven't been able to find that silver bullet yet to replace people. We see it coming, and we're implementing it where it works, i.e., some of our models are now built in AI. Some of our leasing abstracts are done, but to me, that's the small stuff and the baby steps to really figure it out.
That's great. I mean, I've always liked how, because of how resource efficient you guys are, you're able to streamline incredibly complex and unique projects. I mean, that's where you could you can save you squeeze all the pennies in a residential asset. In a commercial asset, there's a lot of opportunity to squeeze out efficiency. Not just pennies, not just thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars. And that's where the automation is hugely impactful.
And that's the fun front end that we're starting to see. Our running, kind of our saying internally is, if we get involved up front, we can make 7-digit, change order value propositions. If you wait until the design's all done, we're 5 and 6 digits, because then we're just kind of managing the VE. But
Yeah.
to the point of what does the kitchen look like, and can you decide? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come to us and say, "Oh my God, I got the plans all done and we're over budget." Well, it's like, it's because you weren't managing the process up front. So for us, we do that internally. Everything's bid out from the very first offering memorandum or paper sketch on a napkin. It's priced along the way so that you're not wasting time on the back end, because a lot of our competitors forget that people are paying a prep, or they're paying debt service, and every day costs money that you're not making a decision.
I remember one of the first deals we did in 2011. We invested in a company called Latista. It was punch list management software. And during our due diligence, we went to the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg Tower hospital at the hospital, and they were tracking 44,000 punch list items. And the interest in the software, and the interesting thing we learned was the change orders ultimately were about the same price as the original budget at the hospital. And the fact that they were managing every single one of the software was gigantic. Like, they had never implemented a punch list management software. And the fact that in this case, they could accurately account for every single change order was valuable for both the end customer, the hospital, but also the GC in managing that process. So it's the numbers are big in commercial and efficiency. The numbers get big very quickly.
They do, and it's the whole business has changed. To your point, it's like, uh, when I first started, you had a lot of folks that would just do punch lists at the end,
Yeah.
and you really want to be punching all the way along. If you get to the end of a project and you have 44,000 punch list items, you've done something wrong, right? That means, like, you want to, if you don't have 3/4 of those closed out by the time you're painted, there's an issue. That would be a lot of blue masking tape marking walls. Um, but yeah, no, there's other firms like we've worked with over the years. Quality Built. They have it's an 1800 checklist item that they'll go through, and it's code compliance and et cetera. And a contractor can't close the wall up until they confirm that the plumbing was actually moved to be in code compliance and per plan. And that, it's amazing to me when you get owners that say, like, "Oh, I wouldn't want to pay $50,000 for that." And you're like, "Well, but do you not realize it'll save you a month on the end on $100 million project that you're, the prep on $35 million worth of equity and $65 million worth of debt?" And it's like, it's amazing, and that's part of our business, no different than fintech, of how do you educate the value. And if
But I mean, that goes back to your experience. You guys think like the owner because you've been the owner. You want to shorten the prep payments on the equity as short as possible. Whereas generally, construction, that's not even on the radar of the GC. That's not on the radar of the subs at all. Uh, so it's a good combination of both.
Well, so if you're looking forward 2-3 years, do you have any crystal balls of what's going to be the next kind of aha in the real estate fintech world, as we say, AI and things start to take over? I mean, Katerra has tried to automate construction, which didn't go very well for multiple reasons. But what's the next thing over the horizon?
Yeah, I hate to pile on and say what everyone else is saying, but the efficiency gains from AI are going to be huge, and they're going to be at the individual employee level. So it won't feel like there's this massive change from 2008. I see it happening exactly from 2008 to 2015. It didn't feel like this massive change, but then we were all mobile, working and doing whatever we wanted, however we wanted, whenever we wanted on our phone. It's totally different now. That same level of efficiency is going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years, and it'll happen in each department of our business. I'd say the next uh, phase is more on the how we interact and work with the built environment. So the changes in the automotive industry between electric, self-driving cars, parking are massive. The amount of parking in LA, I think it's equal to the amount of building space,
Yeah,
just places to put cars. What happens if you don't have to put your car somewhere? Your car
totally,
is just
totally right.
automated.
I got to ride in my first Waymo 2 weeks ago.
There you
And
go.
thought I was great. My wife is like, "What are you doing getting into a car without a driver?" I'm like, "It's actually kind of fun." And I felt
I'm
more.
glad we can talk. I'm glad we're talking right now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I felt safer in that than I did with the Uber driver that drove me from the airport.
And
Quite
you won't
frankly.
you won't name his name, but
Yeah, he did not get 5 stars.
5 stars. Nice. So like things like that have the potential to just totally shift how we interact with the environment. And the other one is just more automation. Uh, Automation of how we interact with our space, how you interact with your office building. This one again will seem subtle, but the blending of asset types. Technologies enable us to blend asset types. We see it with apartments, where apartments can now operate as a short-term stay. So you can have a furnished long-term lease, and in the same building, you can offer guests a furnished short-term rental, like a hotel. Uh, that blending has happened. So the blending of hospitality and housing, we're seeing the blending of housing and work. We know a lot of multifamily groups who are offering a work from home space in their apartment buildings. We've seen a couple take it so far as to charge people to have a co-working space within their apartment building.
Huh.
And
So
then
like
we're seeing,
almost building out full co-working as if
yeah.
it is. Okay.
And so like the amenity lounge, the amenity package includes, uh, in a lot of spaces, almost a working space. Taking it a step further, we're going to have a co-working space and we're going to charge people. In a lot of jurisdictions, they require some percentage of retail on the first floor. That's a good mix. That's a potentially good option to have until you can backfill with a more permanent, higher paying tenant. We've seen that happen. And then in the office space, we're seeing blends there. Well, the one I love the best are when people in the buildings that are the right shape, narrow enough, the full conversion to multi, where some portion of the building will be office, some portion will be multi after the fact. Uh, that has been
We're
really neat to see.
we're doing office to hotel for one of our clients in Hawaii right now. But
There you
it's
go.
there's about 8% of the office buildings have the right infrastructure and floor plate for a hotel, about another 12% for multi, and about 10% for self storage. So you kind of start eating up. That's 30, maybe 35% have the physical footprint for conversion. Uh, a lot of them are just too deep, or they don't have the core for the right infrastructure. But yeah, if you get creative with the right money, it's pretty interesting. It's fun to do.
Yeah, and to repurpose the core asset has a lot of value if you can do that. So we think there's a ton of opportunity to totally shift the way we see it is in between, and that's exciting. It takes a lot of tech to do that. Um, One of the stats that I think was interesting to see was last quarter office vacancies hit 20%. And what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for the industry? What does that mean for the physical buildings in these downtown centers? It means there needs to be a different option.
Yep.
And that option is going to take a lot of physical change, like physically moving walls, remodeling, repositioning. But then also there's going to be a lot of tech to enable us to live in those buildings, to stay for a week in those buildings. And that's where we come in. You know, we love helping you, we love helping groups think through. One of the ones we saw recently is how do we think through optimizing this parking lot to be both short-term hourly, long-term monthly, all in one physical parking structure to optimize yield. There's software and hardware for that. You know, that puzzle is where we love to collaborate.
And it's funny you brought up parking because that's, you and I were talking Waymo. I remember years ago we were talking about like the Uber flight, and how that might change things. But we have a client looking at their parking structures because their office buildings are nowhere near as full. So it's not just the office structure, but then you say, well, what do you do with the parking, the adjacent parking structure? And they're
Yeah.
looking at ghost kitchens, almost like a 3PL in logistics of how can they convert their parking structure to industrial storage or a ghost kitchen or, an Uber Eats delivery that drives more profitability to the restaurant for local delivery because they frankly don't need half of their parking stalls anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that reuse is really happening across the country. We saw in New York there was some bad positioned retail locations converting to EV scooter and delivery vehicle charging facilities. That was one of the more unique concepts we saw. I like the service and entertainment sector where we've seen a lot of adaptive reuse in the like regional malls and kind of big box stores that have struggled, where they're creating entertainment and destination experience. One one recently that my kids were going to is a VR store where if they do birthday parties, corporate events. It's kind of like the indoor golf simulators, but for video games, where you put on the full set and you got a pretty cool VR setup for you and your whole crew to go battle aliens.
Yeah.
So there's a cool blend between the consumer experience and then reusing real estate.
Well, and I think you hit it on the head, and we'll leave it with this: is real estate's not about real estate anymore. It's about the experience. I don't care if a hotel,
Yeah.
multifamily, office, even parking, or a self-driving car. It's if you can remember that that the tenant is a true customer and they have choices now for every asset class. Like that's to me the win, and you need to blend the technology with it to continue to attract them and keep their attention.
Yeah. One of the things I'd love to ask you about, Colby, it surprised me. We were on a call recently with an architecture firm, and they said we primarily do office interiors. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, all right, U.S. investment volumes are down like 20, depending on who you ask, 25 to 30% from the year prior. And office vacancy is at all-time highs, and he's saying this is probably gonna be my best year. They only do office interiors. I'd love to hear from you. You know, when you think about construction, office, that shocked me. That was shocking. Maybe he's just taking market share, possible. But as you think about construction and the amount of construction, how are you guys seeing, and what are you guys feeling across the industry?
Yeah, so I mean, generally speaking, a lot of the construction has slowed. Not for everybody talked about pricing and such. It was interest rate. We figured out a lot of our material pricing and such. It's you can only pull so many levers when your cap rates were underwritten at a certain level and your debt costs went up X amount. At X amount that we all know. We've basically hit a low in material pricing. Um, between kind of May and we think we'll top out in about October. Um, and we're waiting to see with the job numbers, which, the last job numbers were positive for us, where you're starting to see people wanting to get back in the construction industry. It's still, with all the raises and everything else, we're still not a high paid industry. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're getting $22 to go work at a Jack in the Box or $200,000 to be a general manager at a Bucky's, it's hard to convince somebody to be a framer or to be a roofer in the summer in West Texas. We're starting to see that come back. I'm not actually surprised by the office interior architect being busy, um, because a lot of people are renewing their leases and downsizing. We just personally went from over 9,000 square feet to 4,800 square feet in our headquarters, and did a great build out. And it's highly efficient. We still have some offices, but now we're half of our offices or workstations are hot swapped by people that are working hybrid. And a lot of our friends that are in the office TI business as contractors are back up to 2 months more backlog than they were pre-COVID, just because they're seeing it coming and bidding. And landlords are truly, what was the amenity game where folks were game to kind of I don't care if that tenant leaves and I'm just going to build amenities. Now they're really focused on what does the tenant need, because we want to retain them. And so, and the tenants have a lot of power with it. And so that the architects and contractors on that side are getting a lot of business. But there's also a major shift. Like, one of my friends is one of the major tenant reps for CB, and they're moving people across the country. And it's, so it's not just, is somebody looking to expand? It's what are the economic packages from cities? Where is it going? Because, with political shift, you're now seeing a shift to hybrid, and seeing a relocation out of state with economic packages. So it's
But
that.
along those lines, what I'm curious about, like we've seen a bunch of stats that's showing the workforce just being more mobile. There's more
Mhm.
movement. In construction, have you seen labor pricing normalize closer to an average across the country? So, like, it's more of like a geographic question. If, let's say, framers in the Northeast can make 2x what the framers in Texas can make, are framers in Texas coming up to the Northeast, increasing the supply of that work, therefore pricing across the country is getting more even, or do you feel like pricing is getting wider? How mobile, how efficient is the labor market right now in construction?
Yeah, some of it depends on union versus non-union states. So, as an example, like a framer, you're not going to be able to move into Vegas. That just the labor union there will keep you out of it. So you see still about a 15 to 20% premium on a lot of your union labor, compared to, if I come from non-union in California to Southern California to union in San Francisco, I have a 15 to 20% premium up there. If I look at it, um, it's pretty much tied to cost of living, interestingly enough. So, and same for design. Where we are seeing it is on the smaller jobs. So, like hotels, there's now the national trend to use a lot of traveling contractors, which we weren't doing 10 years ago. Now you'll actually have entire teams that'll go through and do a PIP or a hotel renovation, and they'll just move through five, six, seven hotels in a row and travel as the work goes, and they're completely nomadic. And the
And
team,
how do they do that? Are they staying like in RV parks? Are they renting out the whole hotel? How do they?
it's a combination of RV parks and or the hotel. And so they'll take part of they'll take an extra floor offline, and they'll move through it. And they're working 6, 7 days a week, and that's built into their overtime hours. And it's a self-contained, vertically integrated construction company they're traveling with the electricians, with the plumbers.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I like that, and it's repeatable. You just go knock it out floor by floor, go to the next one, knock it out floor by floor. There's an incredible amount of efficiency, and the team probably gets better. It's like any. I coach Little League. It's like the team gets better over time. After the first hotel, they're doing the second one a lot better.
Multifamily is the same, and you'll get contractors that'll be regional, and they'll go ahead and buy out, all the appliances or all the cabinets and warehouse them for, 5 or 6 different projects. So like one of the things we're trying to tell our clients now is you might not be building or need pipe or steel for 2 years, but buy your allocation today so that and you can get in and you can lock your front end materials pricing, or at least at minimum, put in, in your allowances, actually match it to the commodity cost, and
Right.
and hedge the commodity towards it, because you're going to have material increase over the
I
next
mean,
few
and
years.
you guys have the data now to be able to say that with conviction. And it's impossible to time the commodity costs, but at least you have a long track record of where it's been and where it's at now.
Yeah, and it's frankly, again, it's not just us, and it's not proprietary. I'm always amazed when a lot of folks don't track it. I mean, you look at lumber, lumber's 1/3 of what it was a year and a half ago. It's closer back in the 500s versus 15, $1,600 per thousand board feet. So you're talking about, on a to give you a frame of reference, on a 4,000 square foot single family home, getting back to building or renovating a home, that's a $70,000 delta in pure material cost.
I think it's time for me to start building my treehouse, my accessory dwelling unit treehouse.
I'll send some guys your way. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you for the time today, buddy. It's always so great to see you. And if people have a up and coming fintech company, where should they reach out to you?
I
Or
should call you, Colby. You'll be my screener.
oh my, that's you know that better than I do. Come on, bud. That's all
Yeah.
hammers and bells.
Our website has all the best places to access us. They can find us at cambercreek.com. Thank you for having me. This has been awesome. It's great to talk to you as always.
You as well. Have a great day, and feel free to tune in next time. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.